He thinks he gets to choose everything. He believes that his decisions are rational, free, and conscious. But the truth is uncomfortable. Most of the choices he makes every day have already been influenced before he even realizes it. Machiavelli understood something that almost no one dares to admit. People are rarely driven by pure logic. They are driven by perception, emotion, status, fear, scarcity, and power. Politics guided by reality, not by ideals, begins precisely here, accepting that the human mind is manipulable, and worse, manipulable silently. He buys products thinking he wants them. He gets involved with people thinking he chose them. He accepts proposals believing he made the decision on his own. But behind every decision, there are invisible mechanisms at work. And here is the statement that is troubling. If you don't understand these mechanisms, you are being driven by them. The end justifies the means when the goal is survival in a world where influence is currency. Is it better to be feared than loved? Perhaps. But before that, one must stop being so easily manipulated. Because those who don't understand psychological games become pawns on the chessboard of someone who does. Today, you're going to discover 9 psychological secrets that manipulate your decisions without you realizing it. And more importantly, how to use them to your advantage without losing character, without losing control, without losing power. Get ready, because after this video, you'll never see your own choices the same way again. If something inside you awakened while listening, don't ignore that feeling. This channel isn't about videos. It's about memories. Remember who you were before the fear, before the exhaustion, before the silence. Each new video here is a different reflection of your own soul, an invitation to understand what the world never taught you. The power you seek outside has always been within you. If you feel that this journey speaks to what lives silently within you, sign up now. Not to follow yet another creator, but to reconnect with something the world tried to make you forget. Because here, every word was made to heal, each reflection to awaken, and each video serves as a reminder. You are not alone on the path back to yourself. Click on subscribe and turn the algorithm into a daily reminder of who you really are. He observes something simple, but that almost no one dares to admit, that which is always available loses value. It works in the market, it works in politics, it works in relationships. Machiavelli already spoke about politics guided by reality, not by ideals. And reality is harsh. The more accessible you are, the less rare you become. It's like abundant water. Nobody pays attention. Now imagine a limited product, a special edition, few units. Suddenly everyone wants it. The same happens with human presence. Whoever answers messages in seconds all the time, whoever accepts any invitation, whoever is always ready, begins to be seen as guaranteed. And what is guaranteed ceases to be valued. Better to be feared than loved? Perhaps. But before that, it is necessary to understand it is better to be scarce than too abundant. It's not coldness, it's strategy. It's virtu and fortuna applied to daily life. He learns that calculated absence creates curiosity, and curiosity creates power. The issue is not disappearing on a whim, but practicing constant adaptability, knowing when to be present and when to withdraw. He begins to apply this practically. At work, he stops responding immediately to everything that comes in. He prioritizes, he creates time for reflection. In his social circle, he stops accepting all invitations. He chooses. If someone wants to talk to him, he schedules a meeting. This completely changes perception. People begin to respect his time more. Machiavelli would say that these are decisions based on real human nature, and human nature responds to scarcity. Look at CEOs, strategic leaders, major investors. They are not available 24 hours a day. They master the economy of presence. It's not arrogance, it's the calculated use of force. He understands that the end justifies the means when the goal is to build personal authority. But be warned, avoiding being hated remains the rule. Absence needs to have the appearance of virtue, to seem like discipline, focus, clear priorities, not neglect. He learns to say, "I can't now, but we can talk tomorrow at 10 a.m. Simple, strategic, powerful. Over time, he realizes something almost invisible. When he reduces his availability, his influence increases. People begin to seek him out with more intention. He ceases to be an option and becomes a choice. His own loyal armies are not formed by constant presence, but by respect and perceived value. He understands that well-managed scarcity doesn't repel, it attracts. His personal politics cease to be emotional and become guided by reality, not by romantic ideals of always being there, because always being there can mean being nowhere. And when presence begins to be measured, an inevitable question arises. If being loved isn't enough, what truly guarantees security in any environment? He learns early on, sometimes the hard way, that being the nice guy, the available hero, the one who solves everything for everyone, rarely guarantees stability. Machiavelli already warned, it is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. But here the lesson is even deeper. It's not about fear, it's about strategic utility. Because love is emotional and emotions change. Need is structural and structures are harder to replace. Politics guided by reality, not by ideals, teaches exactly that. Those who are merely likable can be replaced. Those who are indispensable become key players. He realizes that the end justifies the means when the goal is to position himself as a solution, not as applause. It's no use having the appearance of virtue if there's no real competence behind it. The world respects those who solve critical problems, and he begins to wonder, where is he merely agreeable and where is he essential? So he adjusts his posture. At work, he stops seeking praise and starts seeking relevance. He learns rare skills. If he's in finance, he studies in-depth valuation, discounted cash flow analysis, and risk management. If he's a digital entrepreneur, he masters copywriting, retention, and funnel strategy. If he's in medicine, he delves into differential diagnosis, refined interpretation of exams, and decisions based on the patient's true human nature. He understands virtu and fortuna as competence combined with opportunity. He begins to build his own loyal armies, not people who like him, but people who depend on his ability. This isn't empty manipulation, it's the calculated use of intellectual force. He avoids being hated because he delivers results. But he also avoids being disposable because he occupies strategic space. He doesn't want to be the emotional protagonist of the story. He wants to be the invisible pillar that sustains the scene. Over time, something changes in the dynamic. He realizes that whoever controls critical resources controls relationships. He doesn't need to beg for attention. He doesn't need to force his presence. Necessity creates silent respect, and respect creates stability. Constant adaptability allows him to become relevant in different environments, social, professional, emotional. He stops acting like a hero who saves the day at the last minute and starts structuring systems that are missed when he's not around. And this completely alters the balance of power, because when someone becomes structural, they gain room for negotiation, and room for negotiation is real power. But there's a catch. The more indispensable he becomes, the more dangerous it would be to reveal all his cards. He begins to realize that talking too much is an elegant way to lose an advantage. Machiavelli never romanticized absolute transparency. On the contrary, politics guided by reality, not by ideals, demands a cold reading of the game. Whoever reveals their intentions in advance gives the other side time to prepare, and time is power. The end justifies the means when the objective is to preserve a strategic advantage. He learns that the appearance of virtue does not mean naivete. He may seem open, collaborative, and sympathetic, but he keeps the essence of his plans protected, because predictability breeds manipulation. When someone knows exactly how you react, they anticipate your moves, and they anticipate who dominates the board. He understands that virtu and fortuna also involve calculated silence. It's not about lying, it's about not giving away unnecessary ammunition. The calculated use of force includes the force of information, and information, when poorly distributed, becomes vulnerability. He begins to apply this in practice. In the professional environment, he avoids announcing goals before consolidating the structure. If he is going to launch a project, he first validates, builds, and tests it. Only then does he communicate it. In the financial market, he doesn't reveal all the positions he is studying. In his social circle, he doesn't share every personal plan. He begins to observe more than to speak. Decisions based on real human nature show that people use information to compete, protect themselves, or benefit themselves. It's not malice, it's instinct. His own loyal armies are built with strategy, not with excessive exposure. He avoids being hated by maintaining an ethical but never naive stance. Is it better to be feared than loved? Sometimes it's better to be indecipherable than predictable. Constant adaptability means changing approach without announcing change. While some talk about what they will do, he simply does it, and when the result appears, it's too late for them to interfere. Over time, the mystery begins to work in his favor. People start to respect his discretion. Comments diminish, interference too. He realizes that the fog of war protects decisive moves. It's not isolation, it's strategic emotional intelligence. He learns to answer questions without revealing everything. I'm evaluating possibilities. I'm structuring something. Simple, powerful phrases. Silence creates psychological tension, and tension generates authority, because no one can fully manipulate what they don't fully understand. But there's an even deeper point in this game. Even while keeping plans secret, there's a field where real control begins, and it's not in words, but in emotions. He discovers something uncomfortable, almost cruel, but absolutely true. In any relationship, whoever demonstrates greater emotional dependence tends to lose power. Machiavelli understood this intuitively when he said that it is better to be feared than loved, if one cannot be both. This is not about inhuman coldness, but about politics guided by reality, not by romantic ideals. Human nature responds to security, not to neediness. When someone clings excessively, they transmit internal scarcity, and emotional scarcity generates devaluation. The end justifies the means when the objective is to protect one's own dignity. He realizes that virtu and fortuna also manifest themselves in self-control. It's not about not feeling, it's about not depending. Calculated use of force here means mastery of one's own reactions, because whoever reacts too much relinquishes control, and whoever relinquishes control relinquishes influence. He begins to apply this to real-life situations. If someone takes a long time to respond, he doesn't become anxious. He continues his routine. He trains, he studies, he works. If he's investing time in someone who doesn't reciprocate, he adjusts. Constant adaptability. He doesn't beg for attention, he redistributes it. Decisions based on real human nature show that people value what isn't too easy. This applies to romantic relationships, friendships, and even professional negotiations. A simple example, in a salary negotiation, whoever demonstrates that they desperately need the offer loses leverage. Whoever demonstrates that they have alternatives maintains power. And loyal armies begin with emotional independence. He learns to avoid being hated by maintaining respect, but without submission. The appearance of virtue remains intact: education, elegance, firm posture. But behind it lies inner stability, and stability generates magnetism. Over time, he realizes that detachment doesn't drive away the right people, it filters them. Those who approach him out of convenience drift away. Those who value consistency stay. Emotional asymmetry creates strategic balance. It's not empty manipulation, it's psychological maturity. He stops chasing and starts observing who is walking in the same direction. And that completely changes the game, because when someone stops reacting impulsively, they start acting strategically. And acting strategically changes everything. But there are times when detachment isn't enough. Sometimes something much more definitive is needed. He understands that there are times when dialogue doesn't solve problems, negotiation doesn't balance things out, and patience only prolongs the wear and tear. Machiavelli already warned that certain problems must be eliminated decisively because poorly treated wounds become infected. Politics guided by reality, not by ideals, means accepting that not every relationship deserves to be maintained. Sometimes, the end justifies the means when the goal is to preserve sanity and growth. He realizes that trying to save everything is strategic weakness. Is it better to be feared than loved? In some contexts, it's better to be firm than overly tolerant. Calculated use of force is not violence, it's a clean decision. A loyal and dedicated armies don't coexist with internal saboteurs. Decisions based on real human nature show that toxic people rarely change under emotional pressure. He learns that constant adaptability also includes knowing when to leave, and leaving quickly. He begins to apply the surgeon's scalpel, a partner who drains energy and delivers no results, direct conversation, clear deadlines, breakup if necessary, a relationship where respect has become the exception, termination without drama, a professional environment where growth is blocked by destructive internal politics, structured exit plan. He doesn't create a scandal. He maintains an appearance of virtue. Avoiding being hated remains prudent, but he doesn't prolong suffering trying to please. He understands that virtù and fortuna require the courage to cut in order to grow. Like a surgeon, he knows that the cut hurts, but it heals. And the faster the cut, the less the trauma. The difference between weakness and strength lies in the speed of the decision. He doesn't announce the breakup with drama, he executes it with serenity. This completely alters his trajectory. Over time, he realizes that each correct cut opens up space for exponential growth. Energy that was once drained is now channeled into construction. New, more aligned relationships emerge. The environment changes. His mind clears. He understands that maintaining what is rotting compromises the whole. Politics guided by reality, not by ideals, is once again imposed. Not everything can be saved. Some cycles need to end for new ones to begin. And when he masters the scalpel, he begins to perceive something even more powerful. It's not enough to cut away what is toxic. It's necessary to control how the world sees him after the cut. He realizes something that completely changes his way of positioning himself in the world. People don't react to absolute truth, they react to perception. Machiavelli understood this when he spoke about the appearance of virtue. It's not enough to be competent. You have to appear competent. Politics guided by reality, not by ideals, requires understanding that image is a strategic asset. Whoever ignores this lives at the mercy of others' interpretation, and poorly managed interpretation leads to loss of influence. The end justifies the means when the goal is to protect reputation and amplify impact. Is it better to be feared than loved? Sometimes it's better to be respected even before opening your mouth. Calculated use of force here means mastery of one's own narrative. Because whoever controls the narrative controls the battlefield. He understands that virtù and fortuna also operate in aesthetics, in posture, in well-placed silence. He begins to apply this practically. He adjusts his body posture, open shoulders, firm gaze, measured voice. He studies strategic communication. Books like The 48 Laws of Power and biographies of historical leaders show clear patterns. Presence is built. In the digital environment, he takes care of his image, visual coherence, and writing style. It's not vanity, it's strategy. Decisions based on real human nature show that judgments are quick and almost automatic. He understands that loyal armies form around figures who convey stability. Constant adaptability allows him to adjust his behavior according to the environment. Formal where formality is required, relaxed where lightness is appropriate. Avoiding being hated remains essential. Arrogance destroys reputation, but invisible neutrality doesn't build authority either. He learns to occupy space without asking permission. Over time, he realizes that attention is the most valuable resource of the modern age. Whoever masters attention masters influence. He stops competing for validation and starts directing strategic focus. He speaks less, but when he speaks, everyone listens. He publishes less, but with more impact. He acts with intention, because scattered attention is weakness, focused attention is power. He understands that controlling perception is not about blindly manipulating people, it's about preventing them from defining who he is before he does it himself. And when attention is under control, an even more decisive variable emerges, knowing exactly when to act. He discovers that it's not the fastest who wins, but the most precise. Machiavelli deeply understood virtù and fortuna. Competence finds opportunity, but only when the moment is right. Politics, guided by reality, not ideals, demands an understanding of the times. Anxiety pushes towards hasty decisions. Impulsiveness reveals strategic weakness. The end justifies the means when the goal is to wait to win by a larger margin. Is it better to be feared than loved? Perhaps. But even better is to be unpredictable in the timing of action. Calculated use of force is not about acting all the time. It's about acting at the exact second when the impact will be maximum. Decisions based on real human nature show that people react to timing more than to discourse. He learns that acting too early can expose vulnerability. Acting too late can mean irrelevance. Constant adaptability includes knowing when to pause. He begins to apply the art of timing to real-life situations. In the financial market, he doesn't buy simply because the price has fallen. He waits for trend confirmation. In the professional environment, he doesn't ask for a promotion in the heat of the moment. He chooses when results are evident. In relationships, he doesn't confront at the height of tension. He waits for clarity. He understands that loyal and personal armies are consolidated with well-timed strategic moves. The appearance of virtue also lies in elegant patience. Avoiding being hated often means waiting before reacting. Machiavelli taught that conflicts should be dealt with when one can win them, not when one is vulnerable. He begins to observe cycles, market, people, opportunities. He perceives patterns. He reads the environment before acting, and when he acts, he is surgical. He doesn't waste energy on impulsive moves. Over time, he understands that timing is strategic maturity. Haste is the enemy of authority. Silence before a decision creates weight. When he finally moves, it seems inevitable, because it's not reaction, it's execution. He learns that patience is not passivity, it's the accumulation of advantage, and this accumulation is invisible until the moment of action. His personal politics become increasingly guided by reality, not by emotional ideals. He stops competing for speed and starts competing for precision. And when precision is combined with controlled presence, structural necessity, strategic mystery, emotional detachment, and the courage to cut, the game changes completely. Now he can no longer plead ignorance. He saw how the presence economy alters value. He understood that being needed is safer than simply being wanted. He realized that the fog of war provides an advantage. He felt the weight of emotional asymmetry. He learned how to use the surgeon's scalpel. He discovered that controlling attention is controlling perception. And finally, he understood that timing is power. The question now is not whether this works. The question is, will you continue living guided by naive ideals? Or will you embrace a politics guided by reality, not by ideals? How many of your decisions were truly your own? How many times have you reacted emotionally and given away power? How many opportunities did you miss by acting too early or too late? Machiavelli never wrote for weak-willed people. He wrote for those who wanted to govern their own lives. Virtue and fortune favor those who prepare themselves. The calculated use of force requires maturity. Decisions based on true human nature require courage. Constant adaptability requires discipline. So I ask you, do you want to remain predictable, or do you want to become strategic? Do you want to be merely loved or structurally indispensable? Do you want to react or take charge? If this content has opened your mind, you already know what to do. Subscribe to the channel. Turn on notifications. Because here you learn to see what most people ignore. And whoever sees it first, decides first. Now tell me, which of these secrets intrigued you the most?